lesson today is on the Book of Wisdom. I'm sure all of you have read of and from the Book of Wisdom before, or had it read to you. But today I'm going to read to you about it. The Book of Wisdom was written about 50 years before the coming of Christ. And please note that some authors count the coming of Christ as being the date upon which his resurrection occurs, but most others count it as the date of his birth. For most Christians, it is the date of his birth. The author of the Book of Wisdom, whose name is not known to us, was probably a member of the Jewish community at Alexandria in Egypt. He wrote in Greek, in a style patterned on that of Hebrew verse. At times, he speaks in the person of Solomon, placing his teachings on the lips of the wise king of the Hebrew tradition, in order to emphasize their value. His profound knowledge of the earlier Old Testament writings from the Pentateuch is reflected in almost every line of the book, and marks him, like Ben Sirah, as an outstanding representative of religious devotion and learning among the sages of post-exilic Judaism. The primary purpose of the author was the edification of his co-religionists in the time when they had experienced suffering and oppression, in part, at least, at the hands of the apostate fellow Jews. To convey his message, he made use of the most popular religious themes of the time, namely, the splendor and worth of divine wisdom. This is found in chapter 6, verse 22, through chapter 11, verse 1. The glorious events of the Exodus. This is found in many places, chapter 11, verse 2, through chapter 16. And also many places in chapter 12, verses 23-27, chapter 15, verses 18, and also through to 19:22. God's mercy is especially highlighted in chapter 11, 17 through 12:22. These notations are also in my writing here. The folly of idolatry, 13:1 through 15:17. And the manner in which God's justice operates in rewarding or punishing the individual. That is what we're reading from. That's from the very beginning of the book through 6:21. The first 10 chapters in particular provide background for the teaching of Jesus and for some New Testament theology about Jesus. Many passages from this section of the book, notably 3:1 through 8, are used by the Church in the liturgy, and 3:1 through 8 is the second part of today's reading from For if men indeed there be punished. I encourage you to read these passages aloud, all of the Book of Wisdom, slowly, to yourself, to gather the full meaning and import of each statement as you possibly can. You may have noted my meter is different when reading these, pausing between each so that you can listen and take a breath or two. Allow the words to resound in your mind, in your heart, and perhaps down into your soul. God is speaking directly to you in these words. He is teaching you lessons that you were not able to hear or ready to be taught on your last interaction with this book. And each time going forward, you will hear different things and observe different items of yourself or of the ideals, because you have now heard his voice speaking to you, and because now you are fully open to him, fully, completely, always. May the peace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with each of you always, and may all of you in the United States be very warm and safe through the next 7 days of very cold weather. It starts today here in the Midwest, and it reaches the East on Tuesday. Be safe, everyone.